Thanks, everybody. Welcome back. I really enjoyed your community speeches, and I love seeing where students take this community assignment, the specific and very creative community choices that everybody has made. I just wanted to touch base briefly with a quick summary video and give some advice about how to prepare for success on your upcoming division speech, as well as set the stage for your final assignment, the big action speech paper, which is due on July 1st. But first things first, this upcoming division speech, which is due Friday by midnight. I should note that the whole course is meant to be 3 speeches that are small escalations in each speech. The first one is a 4 to 6 minute speech, obviously. The second one is a 5 to 7 minute speech. That's this upcoming division speech. And then finally, you have a 6 to 8 minute speech, which is that capstone action speech. It's also meant to be escalating in terms of the grading criteria that I'm looking for. So in your first speech, I was primarily looking for organization, the facility with which you could stick to the introduction and 2 to 4, 3-ish main points with good transitions in between, and even balance in the development of those main points, followed by a conclusion, as well as extemporaneous delivery. This course is supposed to emphasize writing ability and performance ability, and so you're writing these speeches, and you can write them word for word, or you can write them out in bullet points, but then you're not performing that word for word because I've asked that nobody read this. We're hopeful. The ideal here is extemporaneous speaking, which means you're looking directly at the camera, making direct eye contact with the audience, whether it's a real audience or a simulated audience like this one, and you're able to speak from memory without using your notes for at least a paragraph at a time, and then you look down, briefly catch your place, and then move on, making as much human-to-human contact as is possible, not looking off to the side or wherever your notes are positioned, because it looks odd when the speaker is not addressing the audience, and that opportunity for human-to-human contact is extinguished. It also changes your voice when you read, right? How many of us have been in a situation where you get a call from a telemarketer and you accidentally answer it or something like that, and you can tell that the person on the other end is reading. It changes the cadence of the voice, and it changes that connection that we're talking about. It makes it sound much more monotone, and sometimes people, when they read, can either slow way down and it sounds unnatural, or they speed way up, or they speak through natural pauses when you would transition at the ends of sentences or the ends of important points, or the beginning from the middle from one topic to the next topic as you transition. Sometimes people, as they're reading, will just speak through that, and it sounds unnatural. So the ideal then, and the grading criteria that I was using last time, is about organization and delivery. This time we're adding evidence. So what I'm looking for is your oral citations of expert evidence, the way you're introducing that evidence in the speech in terms of the person's name, their qualifications, which is basically just an answer to the audience's question, why should I care about this person's opinion, right? Which is where you're saying this person is qualified to speak on this subject because whatever that reason is. And then offering some standard of recency, right? So you're saying the date of publication. So this person who is qualified for this reason said in 2017, blah, 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 whatever they said. And then for your final assignment, not this time, but for your final assignment, we're going to add a 4th grading criteria, and that is the use of vivid, metaphoric, poetic, catchy, resonant language, right? So it's a graduating scale from the first one, which is delivery, performance, eye contact, plus organization. Now we're keeping those, and we're adding a 3rd one, which is use of evidence, including not just external evidence, external sources, but also ethos, pathos, and logos appeal, so you have a variety of arguments to be persuasive to an audience. And then finally, for your last assignment due on July 1st, is use of vivid language in addition to those first 3 requirements. Now, finally, some final thoughts about your division speech. Your division speech should evenly cover, neutrally cover, and objectively cover one controversy that is dividing one community. To be clear, this is not Republicans versus Democrats, Georgia fans versus Florida fans. It's not 2 different groups of people arguing about the same thing against one another. It is the same issue that has split a community more or less in 2, and that community is fighting amongst itself about a common topic. And your job then is to neutrally present the best foot forward for both sides' case. Side X says, and then you devote a full big main point to that side's case and put their best foot forward as neutrally and informatively as you can, using the evidence that they use, using the ethos, pathos, and logos appeals that they use, and then switch. Have a big transition from the first main point, let's say the pro side of whatever the issue is, And then to the con side, where you have a big main point where you neutrally and informatively detail the types of evidence that they use, the types of arguments that they use, their ethos, pathos, and logos appeal. So if you're structuring this thing out, you're outlining this ahead of time, you're thinking, I have a big introduction that sets the stage, that says this community is usually united by this, but they're also arguing about this one issue. That issue is X. Then your thesis will say, what is the crux of the issue? What is the basis of the argument? At its core, what is the fundamental disagreement that this community is having about this particular issue? And then you preview both sides. Side X says X, Y, and Z briefly. Side Y says X, Y, and Z. I'm getting my letters a little confused, but you get my point. And then have two big main points. Point A, or the first main point, is the pro side, and then detail that and make sure you have a consistent internal organization scheme. On some folks' feedback, I noted the need for internal organization of your main point, specifically signposting language, first, second, and third, and linking language to let everybody in the audience know that you're moving on from one point to another point, ideas like next, and additionally, moving on, and so forth. Since these are going to be really big main points, 2 or more minutes, covering lots of complicated and different arguments that each side is making, it's beholden on you to think carefully about how to organize those 2 main points. So you have introduction, 2 main points, give or take, and then finally your conclusion, and making sure you have oral citations on each side of that. The idea then is that you stay neutral and objective throughout, and the last thing to consider there is that since you have 2 big main points, it's important that to stay neutral and objective, that you have roughly even and balanced development of those main points. For instance, if you cited all of your oral citations in the first main point and 0 in the second main point, it makes it look like the one point is stronger than the second. The first point is stronger than the second. The same is true with your time investment. So in this particular instance, what that means is that if you had one main point that's 3 minutes long and one main point that's 45 seconds long, it makes it look like, given your time investments imbalance, that one side has a stronger case than the other. So given that this is an informative speech, your task is just to detail both sides of a controversy that is driving a wedge in between a community. Feel free to reach out to me on my office phone or via email. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as I can, and I really look forward to watching everybody's division speeches. Thanks, everybody.